Hey friends, if you are like me and you are not used to this cold weather that we are having, you may look at your garden and you may go, oh my gosh, my garden is in such trouble. Well, it is not. So I am here today to share with you what you need to worry about, what you might be concerned about, and what you absolutely should not be worried about. Because if you are like me, I'm in North Carolina, a Zone 8A, part of the southeast of the United States, or even further south, or Texas, or anywhere that is dealing with abnormally cold temperatures, this video is for you, because we're not used to this kind of weather, y'all. We're not used to having my garden look like this for multiple days. And so, as you know, right, I think like more than half the country was absolutely like hammered with this massive storm that came through last weekend. Some people got a ton of snow. Some people got a ton of ice. Some people like us got a ton of sleet with a little bit of freezing rain. And now we are just having really consistent cold temperatures. So I'm actually filming this on Thursday. This all fell on Saturday night. And this is very abnormal for me to keep this kind of precipitation throughout the entire multiple days. You can see there's areas that don't have this. But if you're not used to this weather with these extended cold temperatures and another snowstorm on the forecast for this weekend that's going to bring us real snow, supposedly, you may be really concerned about your garden. And I've had several people send me some messages and ask questions. So this video is to reassure you and probably help save you some time on things that you just don't even need to worry about. What we're going to do today is we are going to walk through the gardens, and I am going to show you what we're concerned about, what we're not concerned about, and give you some reassurance, give you information and knowledge so that you feel empowered, so that you don't worry about your garden. We don't have time to stress people. Now, my friends who are used to dealing with extended cold and snow and sleet throughout the entire winter, y'all may be looking at us and you're like, y'all, what is the big deal? But y'all, here in the South, this is not normal. We are not used to this. So y'all are just tougher. Maybe we have harder summers. I don't know. Y'all definitely have the winters. I know I would not survive. Y'all are sending me messages on things about like what your weather is doing. I'm like, nope, would not survive. So it takes a little bit of a psychological toll on us Southern gardeners because we're just not used to this. I am used to having a couple of days of cold, maybe a couple of days of snow, and then out in the garden I go. Well, right now, because things are still covered with basically ice, there's not a lot of things that I can do in the garden. So when we're looking at these plants, I want you to remember that cold is not the enemy. Confusion is the enemy of your garden. So it is actually helping the garden that we're consistently cold. As you know, right, our southern winters and seasons, you can have a day that is like the high maybe 30, and then 3 days later you're up to 75. That is a lot harder on your plants than consistently cold temperatures. Think about it. Think about our friends who have heavy snow loads and consistently really cold temperatures in the wintertime. They have some of the most absolutely stunning gardens in the summer. So again, cold is not the enemy, confusion is. And right now our plants are not confused because it is being consistently cold. I always say that plants are a lot tougher than we give them credit for. That includes the cold temperatures. I've got those beautiful hydrangeas behind me. Y'all, they are tough. They can handle a cold winter here in the South. It's not a problem. Again, the problem is when we have that constant freeze and thaw back and forth and back and forth. So the consistent cold is a good thing. And then the problems that we need to look out for, let me show you. All right, now that we know what the culprit is, confusion, let's go through and look at plants that I do want you to keep an eye on, because there are certain ones that I want you to keep an eye on as we go through these really kind of cold temperatures and yet another possible snowstorm. So what are those items that we need to keep a close eye on? So I'm standing here in the front yard, and the reason that we're standing here along this front yard renovation is because this has been one of the newest gardens that we have created here at Creekside. So of course this was kind of late summer going into fall when we planted this. So what you're going to be looking for are those plants that have been newly planted. So maybe you did some things in the fall. Maybe you did a whole landscape like we did. And this is what we want to keep an eye on, because again, not so concerned about like the top of the plant. What we're concerned about are the roots. We want to make sure that the roots are nice and insulated and protected. It's actually going to help me with this next snowstorm, because out here in the front, it still has the ice snow load from the past storm. So that actually acts as an insulator. So this is really good. If you have exposed areas that do not have the snow, and you want to make sure that those roots are really well insulated, the best way to do that, of course, is with mulch. We always preach that mulch is a great insulator of the roots. Typically, I'm thinking about in the summertime because it keeps the roots cooler, but it also works again in the wintertime to help hold in those temperatures. So we want to make sure that your roots are really nice and protected. So if you need to add some mulch or shore some things up, then go ahead and do that. If you have shrubs that are marginal for your area, so I am an 8A, right? So if I had, let's just say my abelias, my mucho gusto abelias, if they were hardy in zones like 8 through 10 or 8 through 11, I'm going to want to protect those because I am on the cusp of being too cold. I'm on the cold end of the zones for the plants. So if you have some of those plants that are going to be marginal right there on the border of being too cold, then what you're going to want to do is go ahead and protect those plants. The best way to do that is of course, it depends on the numbers, right, my friends? But if you have like old sheets or you have burlap bags, a cloth, not old towels, those work great. Don't think plastic. Don't think a shower curtain liner. You can go ahead and wrap those plants. That will again will help insulate the plant. And if there's any wind associated, then that will also help protect them. The good thing is with this storm is that we're already cold. And so we're not going to have like all these really cold sustained winds, because that can really cause a lot of burn and dehydration on the plants. So we don't have to really worry about the icy cold wind with this storm. But if you have those marginal plants, let's go ahead and protect them. And then containers. Let's talk about containers. I think most gardeners do not have a ton of container plantings in the wintertime. Typically, containers consist of those warmer months, but I'm sure like quite a few of you do have 1 or 2 containers in your garden. So we want to be more concerned about our containers because they're going to be more exposed to cold temperatures simply because they're not in the landscape, and that cold air can reach all the way around these pots. So what you want to do is if you have a container that's out exposed in the landscape, go ahead and protect that. Go ahead and wrap it up with some cloth. If you're able to move them, if you have small containers, Brenna found a toy, sorry about that. If you can have small containers, maybe put them in your garage. These are right here along, of course, our front porch. So they're up against the house and they are protected and doing quite well. So they have had no issues and are doing well. Another thing to think about with your containers is make sure that they are watered. You don't need them saturated, but you do want to make sure that the soil is moist, because the roots in moist can actually survive better than when you have like dry roots when it's really, really cold. So give them a little drink of water if they haven't had any rain yet, or if they're like mine that are tucked up underneath there. Just make sure that they have water before that really cold temperature hits, and that will help protect those roots as well. So basically, when you are thinking about those plants that could be at risk, you want to ask yourself, is it protected? So is it, whether you have to cover it with some sort of fabric or cloth, or is it protected because it's up near a structure? Then if it's in the landscape, is it well mulched? Do you have a nice thick layer of mulch around those roots to make them nice and happy? So those are those kind of three things when you're looking at a plant, you're looking at a landscape that's recently gone in, those are the ones that you want to be asking yourself those questions. All right, now let's talk about things that look bad, but usually they're just fine and we don't need to worry about them. Now, another area that is obviously covered still in tons of snow/ice/sleet, whatever you want to call it, the white stuff. This is, of course, the new, newly extended flower bed that is typically my shade garden. And y'all, there are things in here that they are just looking rough because it is cold and they are not used to it. So, for example, as I tiptoe ever so carefully and don't fall, I have got like my holly fern right here, right? So the holly fern, y'all, it looks terrible. I mean, we've got brown, we have got like really no signs of fresh new life anywhere. Trust me, this thing is fine. Just leave it alone. Do not come in here and start pruning. This is not the time of year or the time of the season where we do not, you do not want to come in here and prune. Leave it alone. Also, don't assume, like when we're looking at this ascot rainbow, it too is looking terrible. It's wilted, it's covered in half of ice, it's half frozen. Do not assume that it is dead, okay? You've got to give these plants a chance to bounce back and be happy. They will be just fine. So don't assume that it has failed yet. You will be fine. And then obviously, y'all, don't dig things up to check on it. Just leave it alone. They will be fine, I promise. We're going to wait until spring, and then if it doesn't come back, then we can dig it up. Like this pulmonaria, covered in ice and snow, she's going to be just fine. All right, we've already talked about what to look out for, what to do. Let's talk about what not to do. Do not do this in your garden right now. This is the time where you get to rest a little bit, all right? So number one, do not go out there and start pruning any plants that you think have some damage on them. So our boxwoods up here, they got hit with the cold. They have got some cold damage. It may be tempting to go ahead and say, well, I'm just going to go ahead and trim it off. I'm going to clean it up. Don't do it. Go put down your pruners, okay? Don't do it. Wait. So do not prune any of those plants that have received any kind of winter damage. Leave them alone. Number two, we're not going to come out here and fertilize. Now is not the time to fertilize. What is fertilizer? Fertilizer is food. What does the food do for the plant? It encourages new growth. These plants, we do not want to put stress on them. We want to help them and nurture them, protect their roots, protect the top foliage if we need to, and just leave them alone. We're going to fertilize once we get past extreme temperatures. Things start to even out and we're leaving winter and we're going into spring. So we're not going to fertilize to try to push out new growth. This is not appropriate for this time of year. If you have plants that you have had to cover because maybe it is that container, maybe it is those plants that are marginal in your area, don't uncover them too soon. This is why we use cloth and not plastic. If you've got plants that are covered in a cloth, that is breathable. Plastic is not breathable. So you theoretically could leave those plants covered for quite a good amount of time. So if you need to leave them covered for 2 weeks because of this crazy weather we're having and all these extreme temperatures, then that is fine. But if you put plastic over it, you're going to cause a lot more damage than good. So just leave them covered and it's okay. So I had somebody ask about, case in point, about macrophylla hydrangeas, and should she be covering her macrophylla hydrangeas? No. Remember, cold is not the enemy. Confusion is the enemy. The only time that I cover macrophylla hydrangeas is in that early spring when the plant has already pushed out new growth and we get that one late frost or freeze. That is when I will cover my macrophylla hydrangeas to protect those buds that have already broken dormancy and are very happy. If your hydrangeas, if your plants are dormant, then they are fine. You do not need to cover them unless they are in that marginal region, right? So just take care of that. And then lastly, do not overwater. We don't need to come out here and just pour tons of water on these plants. Trust me, if you've got clay soil like I do, those roots are plenty moisturized. They are good. The one exception would be your containers. If your containers are bone dry, or you have a stash of plants like a lot of us gardeners do, and those plants that are still in their nursery pots, if they are bone dry, then give them water. Like, you can give them water once and then like wait a week and they'll be perfectly fine. This is not summertime. We don't have a lot of evaporation of moisture, so do not overwater those plants. So my friends, believe it or not, the cold and the snow can actually be a benefit to our garden. So these areas that I still have that snow covered in it over my flower beds, remember we talked about this before. Your snow, this is going to act like an insulation. So it actually helps insulate those roots so we don't have those extreme temperatures, which remember, cold's not the enemy, confusion is the enemy. Also, I have got a bunch of tulips. Y'all know me. I've got tons of tulips planted in my gardens. And when we were having those 70-degree days, because you know we had them, my tulips were starting to pop up. So I have got throughout my gardens, I have got maybe like, depending on where it is, but in my warmer zones of the garden, I have got areas that maybe I have an inch of my tulips popping up. So this is actually kind of like reset those plants. They're like, hey, it's still too early, my friends. Y'all need to calm down. It is not time yet. So that way they bloom at the appropriate time, because I don't want my tulips, blooming in February. They got to wait till like March or April. So it actually helps those plants calm down, reset, and they need that little bit of reality check of it's too early yet. Just calm down. So embrace the cold. It's okay. All is well. So what are we going to do to prepare for the next storm? So honestly, full disclosure, for me personally, nothing. Like I have nothing to do, because I have been very intentional going throughout the fall, making sure that my flower beds are mulched, right? So if you need to go ahead and mulch your beds, or a specific area, maybe it's the most exposed to those cold temperatures, go ahead and add a little bit of mulch. If you have containers that are very exposed and out there and are susceptible to harm, pull them in closer. Either move them closer to the house, or if you can put them in a garage or like an outbuilding or something like that, you can go ahead and do that. And then y'all, there are probably very few of your plants that actually need to be covered. So if you need to cover the plants, go ahead and do that. But again, for me personally here, I'm not covering anything. Even, so recently I had planted some camellias and some hellebores over at the hillside garden at the signature garden. They're under trees. They are naturally protected by those trees. So I am not covering them, even though camellias can be a little marginal because they love it really warm. But like I said, they're under tree canopy, so that's naturally going to protect them. So I am leaving them alone. So I know Mimi, somebody was asking about Mimi. Is Mimi going to be doing anything? Nope. She's not. It is all good. So there's very little things that you probably really need to do. I am just here to kind of reassure you that everything is okay. But again, there could be a handful of situations that you need to take care of, which we have previously discussed. Before we move on to what I want you to watch for once the weather actually returns, talking about how the cold weather is actually going to help. So remember, it was before that really cold temperatures hit, I started pruning my roses. This is another good thing, because those cold The cold weather that we're having is telling my roses, hey, chill out. Like, you were just getting a little bit too overachiever, because I was starting to have new growth pop out. And then on some of the roses, I was already starting to have new leaves. So again, little too early for that here in North Carolina. So this cold weather has brought them back to reality, put them back into a little bit of dormancy. Like, hey, slow your roll there, sister. You got plenty of time. All right. So what are we going to look for? What are we going to do once this cold snap seems to kind of have moved on and passed us by? I always say that gardening teaches us patience. It happens in a multitude of ways, but this is going to be a case where it's going to teach us patience. One, it's going to teach me patience because I can't get out in my garden. I can't come out here and plant new things, because we always say that historically in the southeast that we can plant year round. With the caveat being this time of year, into January, maybe into mid-February, because this is where we're going to take a break, y'all. I am not going to be planting new plants. One, I physically can't get through to the soil to plant. But once the weather starts to turn, once we get those more consistent warm temperatures, then we are going to assess our garden. We're going to walk through the garden. Let's going to see what bounces back up. But again, teaching you patience. Don't make any rash decisions. Don't look at a plant and go, oh my gosh, it's dead, and then rip it out of the ground. No. Wait until those really, truly consistent warm temperatures that are more seasonally appropriate. So I'm thinking about, like, for me on the calendar, that would look more like in March going into April. So then we can look at that. Once you start to see new growth, she has found her squeaky toy. Once you find that your plants seem to be waking up, we want to look for new growth really kind of starting at the base of the plant. That's going to be where you see the first signs of life. It's going to be more at the base of the plant as opposed to the stems, because like I've got some hydrangeas right here. Now, I'm not worried about these hydrangeas because hydrangeas are very, very tough for me in North Carolina, zone 8A, as far as like the cold temperatures. But it could be that I lose a stem or two on my hydrangea. Does that mean that the hydrangea is dead? No, it just means that that stem is dead. So I'm going to wait and look and see. I have new growth in the center of it, and it's going to keep coming. Once the hydrangea has flushed out completely with all that beautiful new growth, and I have a stem here or there that's dead, then I will go ahead and prune that. But again, that could be in April. So you got plenty of time. And then just let the plants rest. Let them recover. They have been through a traumatic experience, right, with the cold temperatures. Give them time, give them some love, give them some patience, and then let them tell their story to you and say, hey, I'm alive and well. I just took a little bit of a hit, but I am good. Remember, your garden is not going to bounce back overnight, okay? But it will bounce back. You just have to be patient. As always, I love hearing, like, what are your concerns? Like, so I would love it in the comments below if you would tell us kind of like where you are, because that certainly does help if you're in New York versus Texas, right? So kind of tell us where you are and then what your concerns are for your gardens. And then my folks who deal with this all the time, like this is nothing for you, I sure would love it if you would give us a little shot of encouragement and reassurance. I know personally last year I had a container like right around in here, and it had a euchera in it, and we had a cold snap, and then later on in the season I was doing a garden tour before it really got warm again, and I was like, oh my gosh, y'all, this euchera is so dead. It looks awful. And then all my folks who live in those colder zones are like, Jenny, don't worry about it. My eucheras look like that every year. It will bounce back. Leave it alone. And you know what? They were 100% correct. It turns out it's just sitting right over here right now. It's gorgeous. Well, not gorgeous right now. It will be gorgeous. And it was gorgeous last summer. So if we can reassure one another, that's always very, very helpful. And then we're not in this alone, right? We are all weathering these cold, weird temperatures together. And I know for me, it is teaching me patience because I want to be out in the garden. I want to be doing some things. But alas, we cannot do that right now. So we're in here together, iron sharpens iron, and we're just here to encourage one another and hang in there. warmer days are coming. I always tell that to my colder people, and then now I'm preaching it to myself. I'm like, hey, you know what? Warmer days are coming where you don't have to wear your long underwear and your and put the toe warmers in your boots and everything. Y'all will laugh at me for this. This is just one of those real moments. So yesterday it was chilly, it was sunny, but it was cold, and the wind started blowing, and it was quite cool. And Brenna is ready to lose her mind because she'd been in the house too much. So I took her out for a walk. I put on my snow pants. I sure did. Now, was I out rolling in the snow? But they sure were warm and comfy and kept that wind from cutting through to me. So, you know what, y'all? Do whatever you got to do to survive, because I can only stay in the house for so long. So, and the German Shepherd sure as heck needs to get out. So if you need to wear your snow boots and your snow pants and your snow jacket just to stay warm so you can be outside, do it. You have permission. You can absolutely do it. All right, y'all. Fill in the comments any kind of questions, concerns that you have, or any kind of reassurances. We greatly would appreciate it. Hang in there. We'll keep you updated on the weather. So we will see what will happen. As always, if you have found this fun, informative, educational, we would love it if you would like and subscribe to Gardening with Creekside. That way you don't miss those 5 videos that we bring you each and every week. As always, we love you. Take care of yourself. Look out for your neighbors and those people around you. Have an amazing day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.